On this episode of On the Farm, we bring dairy farmer Charlotte West to take a look around a robotic and tech-focused farm to see the benefits of making the switch, talk to Agri King feed nutritionist Howie, and find out some top tips on the best calf rearing techniques of today. Hello and thanks for joining me on another episode of On the Farm. Now, animal welfare is at the forefront of every good farmer's mind. So we've come to Meadow Bank Farm here in beautiful Shropshire to see how tech is making such a big impact on cow health. But first, something a little different. Charlotte West is not only a Young Dairy Farmer of the Year award winner at the 2023 Cream Awards, but also the herd manager at Stocken Farm in Buckinghamshire, a mixed farm with a focus on dairy production. She wanted to learn how robotics and tech could help her family run business, so we thought best for her to find out for herself.
Stocken Farm is a family-run business. I'm the herd manager, my brother is the arable manager, and we work with my mum and my dad, who are the partners, owners. We're milking about 400 cows, 11,500 litres on average. We're grazing with an a la care contract, but also fed on a TMR. And the whole farm is about 1,000 acres, half rented, half owned, and we've got about 15 members of staff. We're really lucky with where we are because we're next to some ag colleges, so getting staff isn't always such a big issue. However, keeping them sometimes, because they go on to do other things, they move up in their careers. I think some of the challenges are younger people getting involved and interested. It can look on the outside as quite long hours and quite hard work, which sometimes is the case, sometimes isn't. I think the industry needs to work on making itself look attractive to younger people. I love the sense of achievement when you raise a calf all the way up to a cow and you see her producing and you see her doing really, really well within the herd. That feeling is the best feeling, and knowing that you've helped achieve that is amazing because of what you're doing and your team are doing on farm.
Now, you mentioned 15 staff. How have you learned what they need and worked with them to sort of manage them better?
So we worked with Real Success and we Vita profiled our whole team. I wasn't a believer in it in first, but then I now wouldn't not do it. It's amazing to see what your team is, different personality wise, which has then enabled us to understand our team better as a whole, understand your delivery style, how to approach them. Everyone needs something different, and actually trying to get your head around understanding that has made a massive difference in our team. We have started doing staff reviews, which has actually been really successful. Sounds a bit scary and a bit formal, but actually it's a safe environment to sit and talk about potentially what needs working on, what they're unhappy with as well. It's a really good place to be able to have a really open and honest conversation, and really importantly, actually tell them how much you appreciate them, because you probably don't do that enough day to day.
A little birdie tells me that you've been travelling a fair bit as well. What have you learnt from your travels? Where have you been, first of all, and what have you learnt from those travels that maybe you've taken back to your own farm?
So I went to New Zealand and worked on a dairy out there for 3 months. Amazing opportunity, and I loved every second of it. I went out there specifically to learn about grazing because they do it so well out there, and that is what I've been trying to implement back at home. So I also went to the USA, again, amazing. The thing that I really took home from there was protocols and how they have so many staff on their farms because their farms are just massive, and all of them are doing exactly the same thing. It doesn't matter who's on shift. They know that the job is going to be done, and it's going to be done to the standard that they want it. Working within lots of different teams, I've managed to establish myself what I like and what I don't like, and what I've tried to put in place at home. One of the biggest things is like feeling valued, feeling part of the team itself. So we've now moved to having monthly meetings where we sit down, we discuss what's going on, we discuss what we're going to focus on, and actually putting a lot of targets in the place and in front of all the staff so that they know what we're trying to achieve, and we're all now on the same lines to try and achieve those targets. And actually the team meetings themselves are so happy now. Everyone enjoys coming in. We have a slice of cake, a bacon butty, we sit down, we chat about things. There's no feeling of, oh gosh, we've got to rush off and get on, or people sat there thinking I don't want to be here. It is actually a really nice environment, and it's a really nice time.
At the 2023 Cream Awards, you won the Young Stock Welfare Award had an esteemed panel of judges really, but you won it. What do you think the key to your success was?
Our team puts their heart and soul into the calves, and everyone that does the calves, we sit down, we have meetings with the vet. I bring in people, industry people, the vet comes in, we discuss if we're having problems. We create the protocols together so that everyone understands why we're doing them, and the key to that is consistency and attention to detail. In the past, we've struggled with crypto in our calf sheds, which is really disappointing for everyone involved. It's a real morale killer, which is something we don't want. And dealing with sick calves takes so much time, and it's sad. So we educated the team on why crypto was happening and where it was coming from. We were picking it up from the calving pens, which is even worse for the calf team because they haven't brought the crypto there. It's coming from other places in the farm. So everything in the calf shed we were doing was right. And one of those things is biosecurity. So making our calf yard biosecure, the calf team wear a completely different uniform, different waterproofs, different jackets to try and keep themselves clean. We don't want to be bringing in diseases from the cows. Yonis is a classic, other things as well. Their immune systems are so compromised at that age, so we want to limit that as much as possible. We at Stocken Farm are actually really proud of our calf mortality rate, only 1.8%, forever dropping, and that's been achieved by our team and their drive to do well, their drive to follow protocols. I can't take any credit for that because it is them. And we've done that throughout the years and dropped it year on year by looking at a problem and being like, why is this a problem? How can we make it better? Colostrum is an example. We're really tight on our colostrum management now, constantly testing it, making sure we're freezing good stuff. Every calf should receive colostrum within 2 hours. We just try really hard to forever improve and think, how can we get this lower? So yeah, I'm really proud of the team and how they've managed to get it down.
Well, it sounds like you are rightfully proud of that rate, and long may it continue. But we've brought you here, up here into Shropshire, to have a look around at a more tech and robotic focused and friendly farm. Have you considered using robotics before on your own farm?
We have considered it. It is something we're potentially looking to move to. I like the idea of the consistency that you'll get and the calves being able to come back and forth and as they please. We spend a really long time just dishing out milk. So that would obviously take that factor out, and it gives you more time to watch your calves, be with your calves, collect data that you want to collect. We sometimes find that in our busy period, we're running out of time to do all the things that we want to do that helps us then improve because we're so busy doing the day-to-day, just putting milk in a teat bar. So robotics could potentially just give us a bit more freedom and more time to look at our calves properly. Potential barriers to implementing robotics on our farm is shed space, and like, have we got the correct layout for the robots? And because we've got such an emphasis in the autumn with calves, we've got loads of calves then, which is great. The robots, that's great for that. But then this time of year we've got barely any. So then, does it work still? Is it cost effective to do that?
Charlotte has been able to visit Meadow Bank Farm and be shown around by farmer Ruth Ashley, and I think she's been pleasantly surprised about the sheer scale of the advantages both tech and robotics can provide. But as dairy farmers, they both learned a thing or two about raising calves and best animal health practices. And together with Agri-King nutritionist Neil Howie, they've kindly shared their top tips. Now, we've met Charlotte, but what about Neil and Ruth?
I'm a vet by training, worked in mixed practice initially, then specialised in dairy work. Fairly naturally led through my career to active engagement with feed companies and ultimately with my career now with Agri-King, where I've been for the last 8 years. It's a company which is based on the premise that we find out what farmers are producing at home and then working out what the cows need so we can match up their needs with what is available and most efficiently use the feeds that are produced on the farm at home. We specialise in forage treatments to maximise the value of the forages at home and then target the complementary, supplementary rations according to what the forage quality is. with very regular testing. Nutrition and the impact on levels of production and the well-being, the lifetime ability of a cow to stay well and be in the herd for a full life is an integral part of the responsibility we have as nutritionists with respect to the carbon footprint of production. The production of quality forages and their role in a balanced diet for a dairy cow is a really important part of harvesting carbon from the farm, but recycling carbon. The production of forage assimilates carbon from the atmosphere. We then put that into the feed, the cow takes it in and we return it as manures and so on. But the production of forage has inherent risks in carbon losses, in that if you don't limit respiration and you allow inefficient fermentation pathways which allow carbon to be lost as carbon dioxide, inevitably you have a hidden shrink, which is different from the visible losses in silage, and we're working very hard to minimize those risks of hidden shrink by controlling the fermentation pathways with lactic acid producing bacteria which capture all the carbon that's available in the sugars, and by restricting respiration in the early stages of filling the clamp and bringing the pH down so that less carbon dioxide is produced. Nutrition is very important for me because just with all of us, we are what we eat, and it's true of a cow. We were invited into this farm when it was already producing very high levels of milk, very good quality milk. What did we bring to the party that we needed was our knowledge of the details of nutrition, which are as much to do with well-being of the cows and support of the cows' ability to live well while making this milk as to do with the actual level of production. We as a company have a unique facility in our laboratory in America to assess the feed mix as it is in front of the cows, which we're doing pretty much every week. I will be here taking feed samples from the feed face, not just the components to go in the ration, and we're assessing whether the feed is as designed according to the specification of the components going into it. So we bring that together, that's very scientific assessment of the ration, and then we build with that with the information we get back from the robot. I can see several times a day how the current performance is doing.
It's my husband's family farm originally. We have about 113 acres owned, but we rent a lot more, mainly for forage and a bit of grazing. We have about 100 or just over 100 cows that we're milking, 2 lady robots, all year round calving. We have been with robots since about 2013. I think it's just a good way to keep on track of what's actually happening, but also to monitor where things are maybe going and how we can improve things really. We've got set protocols, we've spent a lot of time developing protocols, so you're just always trying to improve really. So as long as the calves are hitting their growth rates, then you know that you're doing all right, and maybe you can focus your attention elsewhere. But if you're not, you look at your protocols and then you see how you can maybe change them to get them where they need to be. So our recent development really has been the scanning of the calf lungs basically. So we do that as a routine. We were doing it on everything probably for almost the first year, just to see where we need to focus our attention. And again, recently we've actually developed more of a protocol we've acknowledged that there's certain stress points, disbudding and weaning, where they do tend to develop issues. And by using the lung scanning, actually, we can make sure that we're on those as quick as possible, really, and just make sure that they have as least stress and as least impact of that stress as possible.
So 3 experts in their field, pun intended. But what about their top tips?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many tips for calf rearing.
Keep it clean, no mess, just everything's clean and tidy, less pressure on everything basically. You know where stuff is, the calves are happy, they're not under any pressure from bugs and bacteria.
Colostrum is the single most important feed that a dairy animal will have in its life. It affects not only the calf rearing period, which has implications for health and well-being for the whole of life, but it is integral to the way in which the animal will grow and develop as a milk producer. So 2 to 3 years down the line, it's still having an effect on the animal's performance.
Hygiene is a massive one, making sure everything is as clean as possible. These are little babies that don't have much immunity to stuff yet, so we want to keep everything as clean as possible. I think the biggest impact to improving heifer health and performance is the baby start stage. Getting your calves right from the beginning, it impacts them right the way through life. In my opinion, this is one of the most important places on the farm. It should be clean, it should be tidy, your protocol should be there, your staff should know what they're doing.
Starting to measure where you are, know where you want to get to, and then monitoring all the time, really. I think it's just, don't be afraid to kind of find out where you are and make a plan from that, really.
As a veterinary surgeon nutritionist, the biggest impact on health for heifers in the calf feeding phase and as they grow on to be mature members of the herd is nutrition, making sure they have adequate supplies of trace elements, minerals, vitamins, and a balanced diet, adequate levels of protein and energy.
It does make such a difference when you get this bit right. Everything else just flows. It just kind of, it's like when you cut silage, if you miss the first cut date, you miss all the others, and it's kind of the same with the calves. You get this bit right and it goes well for the rest of it.
In terms of improving heifer performance, I think you can only do that if you have the backing of your team. If your team know what they're doing and they understand why they're doing it, it makes massive impacts on your heifers, how they're reared, and then how they perform going on into the herd.
If I could change one thing in heifer rearing performance, it would be monitoring the diets and making sure they get adequate balanced nutrition, including minerals, trace elements and vitamins at pasture.
So there you have it. Charlotte was never really struggling with being a tech or robotics convert, but I think she found her trip up north to be a useful one, and so have we. Thanks, of course, go to Ruth and to Steve for having us here at their lovely Meadow Bank farm, to Charlotte for making the trip up north, and of course to Neil for his expert knowledge and advice. A big thanks also goes to AgriKing for making this episode possible and bringing it to your screens. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the farm.